Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the lesson number 4 of class 10th, the rise of nationalism in Europe. This is about how nationalism started in Europe. If we talk about the concept of nationalism, it is having one land, citizens of the country, one flag, one national anthem, and everybody talks about a feeling of one nation, a feeling of nationalism. In this chapter, children, this is one picture in the beginning given in your book, which tells you about the concept of nationalism. This is a picture created by Frederick Sorrieu, a French artist in 1848. He prepared near about a series of 4 prints visualizing his dream of a world made up of democratic and social republics. That was the time when republics were not there. Rather, monarchy was the basic concept all over Europe. Small kingdoms were there and unified nations were not there. There was no concept of nation. And this first print shows the people of Europe and America marching in a long train and offering homage to the Statue of Liberty. You can see here, this is the Statue of Liberty. And the torch of enlightenment in one hand, she is carrying a female figure, and the Charter of Rights of Man in the other. This was the time when the concept of rights of man, rights of human beings came into existence. On the earth, in the foreground lie the shattered remains of symbols of absolutist institutions. Absolutist means the monarchical powers were having all the powers in their hands. The monarchies had all the powers in their hands. So he has dreamt of a time, he has dreamt of a land where all absolutist institutions are shattered and their remains are laid down here on the ground. Then Sorrieu tells about the utopian vision. A utopian vision means the people of the world are grouped as distinct nations identified through their flags and costumes. They all are wearing costumes of their nations and they are having a flag which tells about the oneness of the people of the same land. The procession was led by United States, this procession, and Switzerland, followed by France and Germany. Why United States and Switzerland? Because they were the first to become the independent nations, to become the democratic nations in the beginning, and later on in 1789, France established a republican form of government, a federal government, and then Germany. Following the German people are the people of Austria, Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, Italy. In Italy, smaller states were there. Okay. Then Lombardy, this is the area. Poland, this is the map of Poland. England, Ireland, Hungary, and Russia. Here again Sorrieu tells from the heavens above. From the heavens above, Christ, Jesus Christ, many saints, angels, gaze upon the scene, they are looking from the heaven. They have been used by the artist to symbolize fraternity among the nations of the world. So they are developing, they are creating fraternity. During the 19th century, nationalism emerged as a force which brought huge changes in the political and mental world of Europe. The end result of these changes was the emergence of the nation states. So, at the end, the nation states were formed, and by that time, as I talked about, France, Germany, Italy, Austria, Hungary, then Switzerland, and Ireland, United Kingdom, all these nations became a nation state. This is the actual map. Now, the first point in your book given, the French Revolution, the idea of nation, how the idea of nation came into existence, how people started talking about one nation. France was full-fledged territorial state in 1789 under the rule of absolute monarch. Monarch, the ruler, the king was having all the powers vested in his hand. Absolute powers were there in the hands of the monarch. Monarch was you can say that monarch was all in all, and you can say it was a one-man rule. There was no rule as such. Whatever monarch wanted to do, monarch could do. The political and the constitutional changes that came in the wake of French Revolution led to the transfer of sovereignty from the monarch to a body of French citizens. So, after the French Revolution, the sovereignty transferred from monarchy to a body of French citizens, because they talked about the National Assembly. The revolution proclaimed that it was the people who would henceforth would constitute the nation and shape its destiny. Nation will be run by the citizens. When they talked about la patrie, the fatherland, and les citoyens, the citizen, in 1789 nationalism came with French Revolution. Various measures and practices were introduced, such as the idea of la patrie, the fatherland. They talked about the land as the fatherland and les citoyens as citizen. People, those who are living in the French land, in that particular geographical mass, they are the citizens of that country. A new French flag, the tricolor, was chosen to replace the former one, because earlier the earlier flag was the earlier flag belonged to monarch. Now they made their own flag. The Estates General was elected by the body of active citizens and named the National Assembly. Estates General, because amongst the causes of the French Revolution, there were no elections since long in the Estates General. Now there were elections after 1789, and that Estates General was given the name of National Assembly. A centralized administrative system was put in place, and it formulated uniform laws for all citizens within its territory. Internal customs, duties and dues were abolished, and a uniform system of weights and measures was adopted. You are seeing here that slavery was abolished, and under one flag all were declared as equal. Then another important change which came after the French Revolution was the regional dialects were discouraged. That means the dialects, the languages of regions were discouraged, and French was given a national identity. French, as it was spoken and written in Paris, became the common language of the nation. Every nation has got one common language. As in India, we have Hindi as the common language. Hindi has been declared as the common language in the constitution. The same way, French was declared as the common language of the nation when the news of the events in France reached the different cities of Europe. Students and other members of the educated middle class began setting up Jacobin clubs. These were the clubs which regulated the activities. Their activities and campaigns prepared the way of French armies which moved into Holland, Belgium, Switzerland and much of Italy in 1790s. With the outbreak of the Revolutionary War, the French armies began to carry the idea of nationalism abroad. This was the way how nationalism is spreaded from France to the other nations of Europe. Now, in your book, figure number 2 is given. See it. The cover of German almanac designed by journalist Andreas Rebmann in 1789. The image of French Bastille being stormed by the revolutionary crowd. You must be remembering the fall of Bastille, right? After the fall of Bastille only, the revolutionaries got success in uh, uh, formation of the independent France. Now there was no rule of any ruler, rather the administration went into the hands of the National Assembly. So the image of the French Bastille being stormed by the revolutionary crowd has been placed next to a similar fortress meant to represent the bastion of despotic rule in German province of Kassel. Accompanying the illustration is the slogan, "The people must seize their own freedom." And Rebmann lived in the city of Mainz and was a member of a German Jacobin group. Jacobin was a club of youngsters. So Europe after the Congress of Vienna in 1815. Napoleon became the ruler. When Napoleon became the ruler of France, he introduced many changes, and ultimately people thought that after the French Revolution, the idea of nation, democracy destroyed in France by Napoleon, because Napoleon was not following the democratic pattern. Rather, whatever he wanted to do, he was establishing that way. So it was felt that after the declaration of the Napoleonic Code, what was Napoleonic Code? What changes Napoleon wanted to bring out, he introduced through the Napoleonic Civil Code of 1804. So it was Napoleon who wanted, whatever he wanted to do, he was doing. So it was felt that Napoleonic Code was destroying that democracy, and this code did away with the privileges based on birth, established equality before the law, and secured the right to property. Here, the courier of Rhineland loses all, because ultimately when he lost many of the territories which he confiscated, which he subjugated, I should say, then he was coming back. It is said in the picture, the courier of Rhineland loses all that he has on his way home from Leipzig. Napoleon here is represented as a postman on his way back to France after he lost the Battle of Leipzig in 1813. Each letter dropping here, one letter is dropping out of his bag, bears the names of the territories he lost. So when Napoleon established the rule, and the Napoleonic Code, when he started subjugating the nations, it was felt that again in France, it was felt in France that again he is imposing one man rule. So French Revolution brought the concept of nationalism, the concept of oneness amongst the European nations. Thank you very much.